There you go.
Hi, everybody. I'm answering a few questions that we have about the Human Resources certification prep for the PHR, Professional and Human Resources. That's the certification that, or the test, I should say, rather, that I took and became certified back in 2009. So I was asked to answer a few questions that could hopefully be helpful to you if you are preparing to take the course. I have a few questions that hopefully would help with this, and Angie has asked of me. The question number one was, how do you prepare for the test? How I prepared for the test was I took a 6-week preparation course through HR Houston. They offered a study group course. It was 1 night a week, 3 hours each night. And so it was a pretty intense study group, but it was an accelerated learning course. We were given binders, study cards, books. So it was very intense, and then I planned my test as close as I could after the study group. So I prepared for that. I studied very intensely. I made note cards. I did everything that I possibly could, acronyms, you name it, to keep myself fresh with the information on what I had learned and to retain it for the test. So that's essentially how I prepared for the test. I also had a study partner. I took the test and the study group with a colleague, so that was helpful to use when we were testing each other and quizzing each other prior to taking the exam. The second question is, once you took the test, did you think your preparation was sufficient? Hindsight's always 20/20. I always feel that I could have prepared more. I do feel that the study group did help prepare me well for the test. The information I was given, the 3-ring binder and the flashcards, the study course, was sufficient. It's a national exam, and so on a national level it's a lot of memorization. So I felt that it was sufficient enough to take the test. Of course, I could have studied longer, I could have done better, I could have made more note cards, but again, hindsight's 20/20. So the third question is, what advice do you have for others preparing for the test? A couple of pieces of advice that I have given here recently to some of my colleagues that are preparing to take the test, or hopefully this will be helpful to you, is number one, study your material. This is not a crash course that you don't want to just study the night before. Allow yourself time to study each of these sections, and do take advantage of the pre-test so you know what information you need to study more heavily on. I found that my weaknesses were in some of the employee relations areas, so I focused more on those topics based off of the scores from my pre-tests. Remember, it's not something that we're testing on in what we would do here at employment training centers, or if you're on the workforce solution side, or even what we do in the state of Texas, that this is a national standard test. So when you're taking the test, keep that in mind. You want to apply the knowledge that you have, but not from your personal current position. What is the national standard for that? Other advice that I have for preparing for the test is advice that I received for taking any large test, which was to get a good night's rest. Be confident in yourself. When you take the test, you'll realize that there are ways that you can mark the question if you're not certain, to come back and look at later. That was helpful to me because I didn't feel rushed. I took the full time to take the test. If I wasn't sure of an answer, I would mark it for me to come back and review later, because you'll find some of the answers, or questions I should say, later in the test may help you remember that answer. So when you go back to it, it will jog your memory. Another piece of advice that I have is don't panic at the end. The screen, at least when I took it back in 2009, goes completely blank. It goes gray, and I was warned about this, that my test scores weren't lost, but there's no warning. It doesn't tell you your scores have been submitted or your answers have been submitted. To be patient, there's just kind of a little dial that turns and you feel a sense of panic. And not sure what you're to do, but if you remain calm, and then also you take a survey at the end, and that's kind of difficult because you want to get to your answers, and it makes you take the survey prior to. So don't panic, study, use your flashcards, use your colleagues If questions come up or concerns about the test, ask your colleagues, those that have taken the test. I'm always happy to lend advice or an ear, as well as I know Angie will too. But as far as I know, that's the advice that I can remember from taking the test. I hope this is helpful to you. My door is always open, so if you need anything, please don't hesitate to contact me. Bye, everybody.